Victor Charles once again was performing in the role of Sir John Falstaff, but this time it was at the Old Globe Theatre on July 15, 1974. The local newspaper reviews weren't as wonderful as they were before at the Mark Taper Forum Auditorium in Los Angeles, when his accolades were showering over him like a crowned king of actors. This particular performance as Sir John Falstaff at the Old Globe Theatre was his last time to speak William Shakespeare's rich and lasting words on their stage. He would never again be in another Shakespearean play in the theater that made him a professional actor in television and motion pictures. It was in the summer of 1974, a short while before Victor Charles would be acting as Falstaff in Henry IV at the Old Globe Theatre. He was in the late stages of rehearsal, and I contacted my Uncle Victor Charles if I could come over and visit with him. After arriving, we walked into the costume department to see legendary Peggy Kellner. They had a warm and amusing chat while I stood drinking in their intimate friendship. It was clear to me that they both highly respected one another. To this very day, I still see them as two giants of theater, and having had that privilege of sharing their special moment together. Victor Charles and I sat outside at a colorful umbrella table in two comfortable chairs outside the theater stage door. We talked about the motion pictures and television programs he recently performed in and how my grandma Mert and my step-grandfather Victor Francis were doing in Apple Valley. Soon we stretched our legs and took a walk across the street from the Old Globe Theatre into Balboa Park Garden, where a water fountain was surrounded by flowers, and as we walked I asked him, "How do you find the character to play Falstaff?" There was a pause, and as we slowly walked through the garden, he then softly spoke, saying, "Falstaff talks to me and whispers into my ears." I didn't question him, because I knew he believed it was true. Later in life, when I became an actor, I would think back on that special day, and before stepping out onto the stage, I knew I had to believe my character was true. We returned to the Old Globe Theatre and entered into the belly of its dressing rooms. As we walked down the aisle, I saw many actors putting on their costumes and makeup, talking and laughing together. This was my very first experience of what was like being in the company of professional actors. I was inspired and completely taken by the drumming energies all around me on that day. Finally, we entered his dressing room and we were all alone. I stood directly behind him as he applied makeup on his face, and I focused on his eyes from the mirror's reflection. I can't recall what I made asking my Uncle Victor Charles, "Have you ever thought about acting in a street theater play?" There was a pause, and he soon looked up at me, smiling with his blue eyes, saying, "Well, why no? Why no? But I'll give it some thought." I went on describing about the theater group Indian Magic and of their hilarious plays they performed in the Zorro Gardens in Balboa Park. He politely sat there, applying makeup on his face and hands in listening to my innocent and terribly lacking experience. I only knew he had been in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, Four for Texas, Robin and the Seven Hoods, The Silencers, The Wrath of God, and King Tut in Batman. In thinking back on that day, I was completely ignorant of his sterling acting career as an actor while standing behind him looking in his Sir John Falstaff eyes. He said to me, even though I'm a professional actor making thousands of dollars, I would gladly act for only catching coins tossed to me by inspired audiences on a dirty roadside. Theater was his life, his passion, and he was a true actor that would go anywhere and any play, television program and motion picture just to feel the energy when standing before camera and standing on stage. Finally, his makeup was on his Falstaff face and his stout body costume fitting just right. He walked me into the audience sitting area and sat me centered just right to see him and everyone perfectly. The lights went black, and then there were numerous voices in the dark as the stage lights rose, slowly bringing everything into sight. Victor Charles, my uncle the actor, stood center stage as the other actors danced around him like a human maypole, prancing and up and down while his Falstaff voice was streaming amusing Shakespearean words as I sat there in awe. When the rehearsal came to an end, he washed Falstaff off his face, he got dressed, and he drove me to my home at Utah Street in North Park. When looking back on that precious day, it truly was a privileged moment in my life to have been with one of the greatest Shakespearean actors to ever play Sir John Falstaff. My father Sonny lost his cousin Carl Brittenbach on September 7th, 1974. I called him Uncle Carl my whole life. They both lived in South Mission Beach, and it took only 2 minutes to reach each other's house. Carl was cooking breakfast in the kitchen for his girlfriend Tess, and he suddenly had a heart attack. He immediately fell to the floor, and Tess ran to the stairs and into the alley, running to get my father Sonny. When they returned, apparently, Carl was already dead before he hit the kitchen floor. He was only 48 years old when he died that morning. Carl and Tess had made plans to marry after Annie Susie died. My Uncle Carl was a gentle and very good man, and he never said an angry word in front of me. My father never got over it because he was his very best friend. When they were teenagers and sailors on the same U.S. naval ship during World War II fighting in the South Pacific, they had a lasting bond that couldn't ever be broken. Carl always had a pleasant smile on his face, and what hurt most was the long, loving relationship between him and Tess, a love story that was suddenly severed, and she cherished his memories for the rest of her life.